Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the last session of Automotive, the last session of the first Automotive Logistics Mexico conference. One of the things I will say, you're one of the most well-behaved audiences. When you're supposed to be quiet, you're quiet, and when you're supposed to ask questions, you ask questions, which is very good. I'm very delighted that we've got such a good audience to help us in this way. But now we've heard a lot from the government, we've heard a lot from suppliers, and we've had some great presentations over the 2 days. But now we've put together a panel which consists of car makers to have their final views, to give you an opportunity to ask them some questions, to make some comments, to violently disagree with anything that they've said. So this is, again, your session. So it's a great opportunity to ask some questions. Before we do that, I'll just remind you, especially if anyone's leaving halfway during this session, and just so you know, we can see everybody who leaves early. I just thought I'd let you know that your customers on the stage can see you when you're walking out halfway through the time they're answering the questions, but no pressure. But you've got the evaluation forms in front of you. We always take the evaluation forms very, very seriously, as my bosses will tell you when they keep shouting at me when we get bad evaluation forms. But particularly for the first conference in Mexico, we would really value your comments, your opinions, your ideas, what we can do. I think we can comfortably say that we'll be back in 2016. So let's work together to make sure we have the conference that this industry, that you great people deserve here in Mexico City. So please share your thoughts, your ideas, what we can improve, what we can do better, what we've done well, so we can build and make this conference even better in 2016. And there will be a prize draw at the end, which is for a meal for a meal for four in this hotel. So there will be a prize draw of the evaluation form. So a meal for four, or what would normally be in my case, a meal for one person, but in reality, it's normally 4 people would eat that much. So this session, as I said, it's called 2020 Vision, looking a little bit ahead, but also discussing a little bit what we've discussed over the last 2 days, and what we in this room can do to improve, to grow the automotive, or the Mexican automotive industry through the great strengths and opportunities of the automotive logistics industry. The panel consists, from nearest to me, is Chris Stiles, the Senior Director of Logistics for Nissan North America. Next to Chris is Rafael Lopez, who's the Head of Material Planning and Logistics for Ford Motor Company, or Ford Mexico. And next to him, and I'm trying to find my notes in front of me, from General Motors, the Head of Purchasing for General Motors, or GPSC, Global Purchasing and Supply Chain. I know your first name, but I can't. Is it Raymundo Garza? Yes. So very sorry about that. But any of you have been to any of our conferences all around the world, you're used to me doing things like that. So, as I said, this is your session. Again, we're going to be going around. There aren't going to be any presentations, so it's really a chance to ask questions, have discussions with some of the most important people in the Mexican automotive logistics industry. So I'll take my seat and look forward to this discussion. To find out how to speak into the microphone, and then once we've achieved that, I've got a couple of questions that I'm more than happy to ask. But hey, I don't pay to get in here, so you'll have the advantage over me. If you've got any questions at any time, please raise your hands. Wait for the microphone so we can hear you clearly. Say your name and your company name, unless you want to say something very bad about the panel. Then don't say your name, and then feel free to ask the questions. So I guess my first question coming from me is, we've been very fortunate to have some very senior government officials here, from the Secretary of the Economy, from the Ministry of Communication and Transport, from the investment agencies, from the governors, from Guanajuato, etc., etc. But like every market where, let's face it, it's a growing market, a growth market, the government's got an important role to play. If they said to you, hey, Chris or Rafael or Raymundo, you have one, you can put one request to the government. What would be that one request? I'm sure you can give me a whole book full of requests, but if you were limited to one, which one would that be? And I'll start from the far side there.
Okay, I believe we already did that, and we already gonna repeat that, and of course are like a 3 or 4, but I'm gonna be honest, the most important for me is infrastructure, because it will be a big challenge. There are others, but infrastructure will play a big role for us in order that we can move what we will produce in the next 5 years.
But could we narrow that down? What part of the infrastructure? What would it be?
We talk about rail, roads, and ports.
Yeah. Okay.
I will ask them, Louis, to map all the logistic chain, all the transportation mode, ports, railcar, highway, and map the current capacity of each node of the logistic chain, as well as the current capacity, and which is the future capacity and future demand. And also a very detailed plan about all the infrastructure increasing, all the infrastructure new projects that they are going to implement. But not, I am the response that I want expect from them is I am making a lot of projects, we are working, we are on it. I would like to have, I am going to do this and this and this in this time with this investment, and the results of this project will be this. I think, since my point of view, Raymundo and the other 2 gentlemen, one from Daimler, Ivan, and the other gentleman from other automotive company, I understood that we asked the same question in different words.
Chris?
I think from my side, they both summarized it exactly the way I would look at it too. I would add to it that they've got to make decisions and do it faster, because what we're seeing is not a surprise to anybody. We've seen this growth coming for years, and we've talked about it for a while, even in your conferences in Detroit and other areas. So it's almost like the chicken and the egg. They want to see the growth. The growth is here. We've been saying it's coming for several years, and it's still coming. So they have to move faster to develop the infrastructure to support the growth. And as they don't move as fast as we're moving, it's creating a lot of bottlenecks and things like that.
I would like just to add some point. It's not that we are not working with the government. We've been working with this new government since they arrived, and we've been having a lot of meetings with them. They are aware of this. A lot of things that Ildefonso Guajardo shared with us is basically because we've been requesting this. So we've already been asking this for 2.5 years. They know they have to do, but unfortunately, they are not moving at the same speed as we are moving, basically.
But it's interesting, because in the kind of private conversations I've had with almost all of the government people who've been here, including the US ambassador, they almost seem to be surprised. We'd say to them, why don't you do this and why haven't you done that? I said, well, they've never asked us.
No, that is not true. I can tell you. And I have my own presentation that we provide to them.
Yeah, okay. I mean, as I said, it's over to you guys. There's a question right at the front. Sorry, they're a little bit slow, my guys, today.
Hugh Cutler from Active on Demand. One of the discussion points from yesterday morning was 2016, a lot of the oil revenue leaves the federal government budget.
Yep.
By 18, 19, you're going to have the huge growth in the output of automobiles here in Mexico. You've got a perfect storm coming, and they're not listening to you today where they do have money in the coffers maybe to do infrastructure. What makes you think, based on, like I say, what the federal minister said about 2016 and the budget really being slashed because oil revenues are going to be down so dramatically, that they're going to get anything accomplished? And if they don't, what contingencies do you have?
Okay, I can answer a little bit from my side. I believe, do I believe they will accomplish? Sooner or later, the project will be accomplished, okay? One way or the other, I believe we as a public sector, one way or the other, we will contribute with the suppliers to make sure if something is not coming, we have plan A, B, or C, or D, whatever it is. Because we need it, and we will collaborate to make sure one way or the other, we find a solution. Now, independently, I can tell you, we as a GM, we are working very close with the government to see the projects that will benefit GM and the public sector, okay, not only the private. We are working very close to make it happen. So we are monitoring that, things that we cannot let you know, but we are working very close, and I believe it's exactly the same happening with the other OEMs, specific projects for them to benefit, okay? And I believe sooner or later, all of us will benefit with a little piece of road here, a little bit piece of rail over there and port, and I believe, know that we are working together, but I believe at the end, we will benefit the industry. That's my personal opinion.
I think from my side, they're going to have to find a way to do it.
Yep.
Revenues will come from other areas, but they're not going to have a choice. It's going to happen.
Exactly.
However it works out, but I don't, you asked for, contingencies, and we work contingencies every day now, so I don't see that changing.
Any other questions? Okay, we had a very, I'll start this one, I'll come back to you in a minute. We had a good, very interesting presentation this morning about skill development. How are you finding that from a logistics perspective, both at the high kind of levels of supply chain staff and training, and also, globally we're hearing about driver shortages and things like that. So how is the logistics skills development for Mexico? Is it keeping up with the demand?
Well, in the case of skill development, I think there are some universities that are already working. There are some of them that are closer to the industry than others. But finally, logistics is a topic into the universities, and there are people that is studying logistics since the university. Mm-hmm. Since, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, the most similarity with logistics is an industrial engineer, so some other people that study industrial business, international commerce. But right now, the universities are taking care of it. Mm-hmm. We are on good way in that regards.
I would like to add on that. We notice a gap, or in the past, what the schools were giving the careers we used to have in Mexico. And an example of that, I'm an industrial mechanical engineer, and that's what we have over there, But a lot of things been, growing in the country, and new opportunities, new careers. And we've been collaborating with a lot of schools, okay, in the states we are working to make sure that, like, for example, automotive engineer, it wasn't here 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. Now it's already there. Mm-hmm. Designers wasn't here 30 years ago. Now it's over there. Mm-hmm. So we are collaborating with a lot of institutions to make sure they are putting this type of careers, okay, into the curriculum, because it's something we are seeing, and what Rafael is mentioned, this supply chain career is already part of some curriculum.
But there's a global supply chain competition going on, which is led by AIAG, our partners at the conference, and Wayne State University. And this year they're bringing in, it used to be kind of USA based. This year Monterey Tech is also participating, that's including correct. A school from China and Europe. And the president of INA, the Supply Chain Association, he's put a wager on that he believes Monterey Tech will be the winners of that global supply chain competition. So hopefully that's a sign of his confidence in the supply chain education in Mexico.
Yep.
Sorry.
And we will collaborate on that. We are collaborating with the Tec de Monterrey in another projects like robotics, mm-hmm. and it's something probably we will collaborate to.
Mm. Good. There was a question, was it Roberto?
Thanks. My question is related to so when you're it's about logistics strategies and selecting suppliers. So one of the things that was mentioned before is the considering the total logistics cost, for instance, when you're selecting a supplier, how do you make sure, or what are you doing in terms of really considering total logistics costs? Because you know you're part of global organizations. We're also part of a global organization, and you know when making purchasing decisions, you have, for instance, global tenders for certain pieces of the outbound distribution, and some others are locally decided. So how do you ensure that those pieces are together when selecting a supplier and really considering a total logistics cost approach?
Perhaps Raymundo first on that one as you're purchasing.
Yeah, well, in the past, you know, we used to make a lot of decisions in purchasing just based into the piece price, okay? And a lot of things changed, and probably was some communication even yesterday because a lot of suppliers moved to China with the boom in China because it was supposed to be a lot of cheaper price, 30% or something was the number discussed. Suddenly, we discovered that the fuel prices were up, then logistic costs going up, and it wasn't any business case anymore. Based on that, we learned the lesson, and now every decision we are making, we make sure we put all that logistic costs, okay, in part of the equation, making business decisions or purchasing decisions. And based on that, basically what we are trying to do today is do more localization, produce parts where we produce vehicles. And it's exactly the same thing that all of the OEMs are doing here in the country. Why? To eliminate risk, to have parts in water, and reduce logistic costs. So now the decisions, we put that onto consideration, and I believe working together with our partners in logistics provide better info to us to make that decision.
Yeah, our side, it's this very similar situation. When I was here as director of purchasing for Nissan several years ago, we started that transition from LCC sourcing lowest piece price anywhere in the world. You know, when the tsunami hit in Japan, the earthquake, and then floods and, you know, and other locations and all that, it really made us realize we've got to have a much deeper understanding of supply. So we go much more in depth in the analysis process of where the parts are coming from, but also the subcomponents of the parts, so that we understand the entire chain, where are the risk factors and all that, and then all of that we use to basically calculate what the total delivery cost is going to be to us. But we also, you got to take into, you know, risks on Forex and risks on you know, inventory and everything else. So I think we've all gotten a lot better at that in the last, I'll say, 6 years, you know, than what we probably saw before, as far as just kind of assuming we were okay, maybe, and then realizing that maybe we had risks that we didn't see from the original sourcing of the parts.
And Raymundo, what about, how is the Mexican supply base developing? Probably really mean, you could say the whole Mexican supply base, but particularly the Mexican, locally owned, you might say, supply base. Is that developing to keep up with the growth in the Mexican industry?
There are some Mexican groups that are really keeping pace on that. There are not too many. In GM, we have 12 suppliers that are Mexican-owned, and we continue doing business with them. We've been collaborating with them and let them know that Mexico is not the only part of the equation, and they need to be global, and they've been with us globally. Besides that, we collaborate with the rest of the global suppliers, okay, that are located in the country, and we work with them. Overall, for GM, we have 550 suppliers in the country. 12 of them are Mexican-owned, and the rest are international companies from all the regions, you know, the majority from US, Europe, and Asia.
And Rafael, we've talked a lot, you know, particularly about the US-Mexico kind of trade. How much more internationally do you work? Do you export parts? Where do your parts come from? You know, outside of Mexico or USA?
Well, we receive about 60. Hello?
Yeah.
We have logistics in both ends. We receive parts from most of the parts we try to locate our suppliers here in Mexico, because this is an advantage for the logistics to reduce transportation.
It's not really coming through, I don't think. Sorry, we just wait for the gentleman to...
No?
Yeah.
Yes? We have logistics in both ends. We have traffic of goods from the States to Mexico. But most of the parts are coming to our plants from the Mexican market. About 55–60% of the parts are produced here in Mexico. And also it is very important that our suppliers base is exporting parts to the United States. The manufacturing in the United States is receiving every year over year more parts produced here in Mexico. Then we have created logistics to receive and to export, to receive parts from the States and to export also to the States. We receive parts about 5–6% from Asia, about 15% from Europe, and also from South America. And we are exporting as well. Our suppliers, Mexican suppliers, are exporting to North America, to Asia, and to South America. And we as Ford are exporting vehicles to South America, to the States, and engines to Russia, to China, and to the States.
Mm-hmm. Questions from right at the back there.
Thank you. My name is Ramon Lemus from FedEx. I guess the question would be for the three of you. In your opinion, what would be the biggest challenge that you face as a manufacturing company in Mexico? What would be the biggest challenge that you face right now?
None, probably. It's easy.
The biggest challenge that we are facing, I think, our thought about that is from Ford, and I understand as well from the other colleagues, is infrastructure. To have the infrastructure ready when we are going to need the infrastructure.
Yeah, I agree. From what we were saying earlier, I think the pace of growth versus infrastructure to support it is really the biggest challenge. It's not in workforce, it's not in technology, it's not in a lot of the other areas that maybe people would consider. It's just around the ability to move parts in and vehicles out. I mean, that's what it comes down to every day. So.
But is the capacity there? I mean, infrastructure is a problem. You know, it's not going to disappear overnight. But are there enough trucks? Is there enough rail cars moving backwards and forwards? Is that the transportation side? Is that in place?
Well, it's a combination, okay? And we are trying to optimize whatever we have today, you know. Mm-hmm. Do we have enough rail cars? No. And we struggle, especially every December, because we want to ship everything and we all doing the same, and it's a shortfall on that, okay? Mm-hmm. Besides, there is a weather condition, then it gets worse, okay? Same happened, I can say, with Holloway. Do we have enough in Mexico? No, and I believe we are working together with our suppliers so we can increase capacity on that based on our demand that is growing for the domestic market too, okay? Do we have enough trucks? Probably not, but I believe we are working with our suppliers so they can invest, get a new trucks, better trucks, et cetera, in order to improve everything. So it's not only roads, it's equipment too, but I believe it's a combination that we are working and we are facing. We all know what's going to happen in the country, so I believe every one of us need to contribute little by little, and at the sum of all that contribution will help us to get out of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the rail car supply is a regional question because we share the same pool of rail cars with Canada, U.S., and Mexico. Yeah. And all the railroads have been investing pretty significantly over the last 2 or 3 years to make sure that the rail car supply is coming online with where it needs to be. Yeah, we get bottlenecks in peak season and we get weather and things like that, but I think we're seeing from that side the capacity is probably okay. I'm seeing a lot of companies on Holloway are taking an interest in investing more on that side because they see the potential, which is good, which is what they need to see. So it's coming. Mm-hmm. It's just sometimes it may not seem as fast as we want. So.
Okay. And what about short sea as an option? We talk about it, but I don't know how's that kind of.
But we use short C, we have for a number of years, from Mexico to the US. I know most of the other companies do too, so I think it's just a balance of maintaining all your routes that you can and make sure that you've got, you know, kind of a good balance, that you're not limited to one or the other, and it'll help with the capacity question as well, on my side.
I think.
Yeah, well, no, go ahead.
I think short C definitively is an option because it helps to alleviate the shortage of railcar equipment. We are using over the time, every time more and more the short C. We are sending cars to we are sending fusions from Hermosillo into Veracruz and from Veracruz to the States, and we are taking also advantage of the backhaul of the vessel, bringing product from Jacksonville, Baltimore into Veracruz. And we have a similar mechanics. This is not short sea, but we have similar mechanics exporting to South America.
Some questions? Back, was it in the middle there somewhere?
Yeah, good afternoon, Frank Bateman from Ryder Logistics. We talk about infrastructure. So if you all were to prioritize where the money goes for infrastructure developments, which mode of transport would you focus on? Would you focus on the seaports? Would you focus on rail? Would you focus on trucking and the roads? And if so, would it be northbound, southbound traffic, or would it be domestic, intra-Mexican traffic?
Question. So infrastructure is a simple answer.
Okay.
But
Yeah, the answer is yes. In everything.
So which would you focus on?
Well, I would be focused, first of all, in port capacity. Port capacity, including not also the docks for the vessels, but raw capacity to receive and load and unload railcar platforms. And next one is railcar platforms.
I believe it's the same, you know, and talking about ports, Rafael is right. It's not only, you know, to have the vessel over there, is where we are going to put the load, look at the cars. And if we put the cars over there, what will happen with them when we have bad weather in Veracruz? So it's a lot of combinations. And we need to work other options, you know, Altamira, Lázaro Cárdenas. We need to look all the options because we will have, based on the demand we will have plan A, B, C, and D.
Okay. Question at the front, please.
Chris Ludwig again, Automotive Logistics. I thought, I was looking, and I think all of you have quite different approaches to outsourcing your inbound logistics and inbound logistics management. Nissan, I think, does a lot of its own engineering, as far as I understand, in terms of the network. GM, I think that's an LLP. I think Ford also. I think Nissan does its implant logistics itself. Others outsource it. I'm not, maybe you can talk a little bit about your strategy and why you choose some those aspects in-house versus outsourced.
I think from our side, we've grown up that way more than anything. It's evolved as far as our internal expertise on what we feel like we can do very well versus where we think we need help from somebody who can probably do it better. So in a lot of cases, you know, we constantly evaluate all the operations and what we think we can manage on our own or what we need to look for help for. And if it pencils and we're getting to a point where maybe we're getting more complexity in operations, we're getting you know, bigger as far as what we're moving between the facilities, then we take a step back and try and say, okay, you know what, we're getting to a point where we need help to manage this. But then at the end of the day, it has to pencil that it's the right business decision. So we evaluate it really based on that from our side.
Yeah, same. I believe it's same approach.
I feel you kind of go for an LLP approach, though, don't you? Really?
Please say again.
You have like a lead logistics partner
That's
kind
correct.
of approach. So is it more about, you know, you're outsourcing more? What would be the optimal outsourcing? Is it keeping it in-house? Is it the 3PL LLP model? Is it the 4PL like, you know, like say General Motors are doing in Europe? What do you think would be the best solution?
Well, right now the strategy of Ford here in Mexico is to have a 3LP providing services. We have that scheme in our 3 plants for the internal logistic. All the movements, all the logistic inside our plants is performed by external supplier. We have the same scheme in finished vehicle distribution. That's a very good question, and that I would like to say in this forum is that in normal conditions, the 3LP, my experience, is that they perform well in normal conditions. They have improvement opportunity to manage the change when there is a new model launching, when there is a new facility to be launched and new operations. We need to work more closely with the 3LP in order to get the service that we are expecting. Also, I would like to add that this panel discussion is the 2020 vision. Our vision with the 3LP in the future, well, we have that vision since now, but we don't have right now, is that we don't look for suppliers, we look for business partners. And that we expect from this business partner is that we are hiring them, we are asking them a service because they are the expert in the service that we are looking for. That we expect for the 3LP is that they are able to notice any abnormal situation, any abnormal condition, that do not permit them to provide us the service that we want, that we are looking for. And also we expect them to be proactive, inform us on time, and we expect them with this situation occur. Our vision is that they should come with an action plan to catch up the targets. We have improved in the manufacturing process. We have systems to prevent, proactive system or preventive systems. We have add-ons into our lines to prevent misbuilds, errors, and we would like to see that approach, that mindset into our 3LP providers.
Questions? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about wondering if the sudden drop or this big drop in the price of fuel has sort of led to any kind of impact or changes in your networks or sourcing patterns in any way, or are you kind of looking at it as though this isn't going to last, it's probably going to go back up? If we're talking about total cost, I mean, there may be some scenarios now which are really different than they were 6 months ago, for example.
For us, it hasn't changed anything as far as how we operate. It's helped my budget a little bit. That's about it.
Yeah. No, it's same for us. It really is no change. We already have that on escalation, de-escalation, the oil prices, okay? Unfortunately for Mexico, even the prices are going down, diesel and gasoline is still the same. So here in Mexico, that's not true.
Okay. In the middle at the, right, while we're waiting for the microphone, just a quick question on, in most of the regions where there's fast growth, there's a problem with fast growth often means you take shortcuts as you're developing logistics. I've found in some countries, India perhaps in particular, it's just about let's get it done really quickly, and it ends up being done cheaply, not just because it's all about cost, although in India there is a huge focus on cost, but there's too much emphasis on speed as opposed to quality. To cope with the fast growth in Mexico, are you able to make sure that you grow your systems, your logistics partners, whatever you need to do? Is building the right quality processes and systems important, or is it still focused on getting the part from A to B as quickly as possible and as cheaply as possible?
I would like to answer that. For us at GM, we will never compromise quality of our product. We will work around, we will find solutions, but never compromise the quality of the part and the quality of the product for customers. Never.
Yeah, for us, it's the same. And to be honest, I mean, all the support mechanisms from a logistics standpoint, from our operations, are pretty well matured here. So I don't think you're having to sacrifice anything to get that in place for what you need. So I don't think that's an issue.
Okay, well that's good. So for all the logistics providers out there, it isn't about price. Okay, so you might be able to push a little bit if you can, promise the quality. So was there a question in the middle somewhere I saw before? Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, this is Alan from Hitchener. Well, talking about capacity issues in the ports, in the last session, David showed us a map with all the ports that we have in Mexico. So it seems that we have enough ports to receive a lot of shipments. So I would like to talk about the efficiency in the ports and all the process that we are working. Do you think that a better method of dispatching customs and dispatching in the ports will work to improve the capacity issue in Mexico?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Well, my perception with the presentation that we got from Dr. David and all the people from the government is they are acting and they are impulsing some infrastructure projects. After seeing their presentation, after looking at their presentation, I feel that I would like to know more detail of what they are doing, because I perceive that there is a communication between the industry and the government should be more close or in more detail to know exactly, I am speaking in my case, to know with more detail what they are doing in the case of infrastructure.
I think to answer on my side, completely agree, but I think it's around the more they can do to speed up the total process is key. So you got to take out bottlenecks, you got to take out bureaucracy, and really try and streamline the movement of whatever it is as much as possible. I think there's a lot of opportunity still there on that side of it.
Okay. Any questions?
Ian Nobbert from DHL. Bearing in mind that price and cost is very specific, it's more or less a given that that's the most important factor in selecting a provider, and that getting the parts in the right place at the right time is that's logistics 101. What role do you see in innovation, and where would you like to see innovation from logistics providers in order to drive value into your organizations?
Okay, so, sorry, Chris. From my point of view, it's basically real-time information, okay? We need to understand exactly where the parts are located, okay? If they are stopping in Laredo, stopping in San Luis Potosí, wherever the material is real-time information is very important for us. Not only for the inbound, it's for the outbound too. So it's something probably we can collaborate and find ways to use the new technology that is available, and that should be probably something very important for all of us.
Exactly, I have the same response, and the challenge is because we are global. We have the inbound traffic, we have outbound traffic, we have traffic of components, assembly parts, vehicles, machinery. The challenge is to have that technology on real time and to be integrated with the global network, globally.
Okay.
I think that's a challenge.
Yeah, and I would add to that, to me, the logistics providers need to really understand what's going on, what's the latest in the world, and not just in automotive. You need to understand what's Amazon doing, what's Walmart doing, how are they delivering. You guys need to be constantly bringing the new innovations to the table to us, so that we know that really we're getting the value that we need from the relationships. And to me, that's where a lot of it comes from.
But I've got to say that I still don't get that, because you almost want to say to people, haven't you got an iPhone? Can't you just check on there? Because it seems, in my simple mind, you talk about Amazon and so on, it seems that simple. Every IT company will tell me that they've got the best tracking and visibility program. Every logistics company will tell me what a great visibility program. I'm sure DHL, FedEx, all the UPS, all the global companies, the Sievers and Riders and whatever, will tell you about their great kind of tracking and tracing ability. And yet, this is a subject that comes up at every conference all around the world. Why is there this disconnect that people tell me they got visibility, whatever technology, but it just doesn't seem to be used? I actually don't get it. Again, I'm a simple guy, as you very well know. What am I missing in this equation?
I think the response to that question, Louis, is that all the companies, even our company in different regions, has been improved if you compare with the past practices. But the challenge right now is to integrate all of them. To integrate, because we have different timings, different processes, different products, different logistics nodes. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, we didn't have the opportunity to build our networks from a greenfield. They've evolved over a long time. So as they evolve, you get things added that may exist now in a certain place or location, but you didn't have it in one front that you developed 20 years before. So I think to Rafael's point, that's it. The constant need to connect all the networks as they're coming online is really part of the key that's still missing.
Okay, and if it helps you, if anyone's coming over to Shanghai in April for our Automotive Logistics China conference, we're going to have presentations from Alibaba, the head of supply chain management from Alibaba. So that might give us some ideas of what they're doing. At the very least, you can watch it on Automotive Logistics Live, if you don't mind being awake all through the night, to find out what Alibaba have got to say on that, because obviously that's one of their things, is the sort of, visibility and ability to see where your book is or where your laptop is or whatever it is. So any more questions? Okay, just so you know, you're not going home early because I've got a whole bunch of questions. So if that's your reason for not asking questions, then you're going to be here anyway, and we can see you sneaking out. Right, so
I want to stay.
Security. It's got to be a huge issue. So what do you see improving? And I guess the answer is not going to be as simple as a lower crime rate. So what are you doing differently? What improvements are you doing, or what do you want from your supplier base to improve the security of transportation?
Well, that we have done in the case of Ford is we are as close as possible to the authorities. We have channels from the federal authorities, state authorities, where we can report an issue as soon as we notice it. From our side, that we are doing is, in the case of car haul or trucks, we are preventing mainly with car hauls. We avoid to travel by night in any part of the country. Then this has increased a little bit the cost of the transportation. But if you look the whole cost, when we suffered a vandalism for one car haul, and the quantity that we are paying because we are holding a truck, instead of leaving a truck that is going to a distance of 400 kilometers, instead of leaving today 6 o'clock, the truck is on hold until tomorrow 7 o'clock in the morning, and that obviously increase the cost. But we think we have increased the safety of our products and the drivers.
Can either of you put, or you might know, I don't know, is there a value or a cost you can put to the security challenges that either to the whole industry of logistics in Mexico, to the automotive kind of estimations of cost of the added security and losses, or even for your own companies? Do you know, or are you prepared to share what you believe the security challenges cost your company?
I'm going to be honest, I don't know. Honest to you, I don't know.
Fair enough.
There is some cost, of course. I believe we are working to trying to mitigate, but I cannot put a number.
Same. I don't know what number you would put on it. It's become the way of doing business for quite a while, so you manage it.
Yeah. but that is also a fear. Once it becomes the cost of doing business, it kind of some might get forgotten as well. I'm not sure you forget it because it's a big issue as long as you're
we don't
lean.
forget it, but
Yeah.
we put actions to fix it, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like loss in material in the plants, okay, because people stalled, and we put cameras and we fix it.
Yeah.
Same as doing putting GPS into the trucks, give a mobile phone to the driver, and so
Yeah.
we've been putting actions in order to reduce the risk and, of course, reduce the cost.
And also, Luis, the cost is not only the cost. I don't have the exact number of what is costing for us, but the cost is not only the cost that we are paying by ourselves.
Yeah.
It's, for instance, the cost, if you remember the presentation from Ferromex, they have more than 2,000 guards to improve safety. Obviously, that's a cost, and that cost is it has a repercussion in all the players, in all the customers.
Yeah. Okay. Packaging, we haven't really covered at this conference. Packaging and containers, returnable containers or not, as the case may be. Huge issue for logistics globally. But, if you got in, what are your kind of plans or, from a packaging, have you got or are you implementing, are you trying to implement pooling systems? Is it 100%, returnable? Is there container management programs? Is there a lot of losses when you think about security as well? Well, is there any points or strong points or views that you have on packaging and containers?
From our side, the global initiative is to have returnable containers pretty much in place around the globe. Obviously, we pool and we use common containers that will run all around the world as well. But there's always some opportunity because you have some suppliers that will try to work more to use disposable packaging and things like that. But our initial kind of strategy on it is that we need to use the returnables. It's just for the conditions in our plants as well as the total logistics cost it comes up. But yeah, it's one of those forgotten areas or can be a forgotten area as far as management. And it takes some effort to manage it correctly because if you don't, you can miss out on a pretty significant part of your cost model that may go without the right visibility. So we work pretty hard. We have a group that's what they do. So.
In our case, it's the same. The returnable containers support the Go Green strategy in Ford. It's a problem to dispose the disposal of the disposable of the carton on the plants is a problem, and also the quality of the product is not granted in the same manner with a disposable packaging than when you use a returnable container. And that we are doing is obviously the returnable containers. One problem or one situation inherent to the returnables is the investment that you need to have returnable containers. That we are doing in that regard is to optimize. Let's say we have an experiment design in packaging in order to lower the heaviness or how strong is a returnable container, making it cheaper, making it lighter, but always granting the integrity of the product.
Basically the same for us. There are 2 questions over there, or 3.
Okay, over there first, yeah. You've got better eyes than me, so thank you.
I can't see anything with these lights.
Yeah.
Bill Schroeder with the Auto Haulers Association. And my question, if it's okay with you, comes with a few rules. You cannot answer using infrastructure, and you cannot answer saying, me too. So if you accept that, here's the question. In the last 2 to 3 years, what has been the best pleasant upside surprise, and the opposite of that, what has been the most significant downward surprise? Thank you.
Oh, tough question. No, I'm not sure.
Must have been some good surprises. Apart from meeting
I think for me, the upside is the way the industry is coming back, just in total volume from what we're seeing from where we were 2008, 2009. We're still continuing to see some pretty strong positive results that just seem to keep coming in that direction. So to me, that's been the positive. I don't know of any, I would say, negative surprises. I don't know how much we get surprised these days with what goes on. So.
If you don't get a surprise a day, you're probably surprised.
Yeah, for example.
Yeah.
Rafael, Raymundo, anything?
Well, about that question, the only one surprise that, and really is not a surprise, is, as Chris mentioned, the industry came back very quickly. And that we notice with this with this growing of the industry is that some suppliers lost some capacity that they have that they had previously installed, and when the industry began to grow, they were not prepared to support the demands of the automotive industry.
Anything to add, Raymond?
Yeah, I can add probably now that I'm thinking on. For example, I believe a pleasant surprise for me, from the social point of view, Juarez, Ciudad Juarez. As you guys recall, 5-6 years ago, it was a complete disaster. It was like a ghost town. What people is telling me, because I was not in the country. And I'm pleasant to see it, and last year, and at least in the last 2 years, it's been a lot of industry back at Ciudad Juarez. And that means that we, as a country, we can put things together and really back into the business. Like I can say it's a pleasant surprise for me. The other things that is a pleasant surprise for me every day is I visit a supplier, and guess what? They are duplicating the capacity. They are building a new plant, they are doing an expansion, and that means the growth is coming for sure.
Oh, that's good. I remember once asking a similar panel at a conference, what can I do to help the automotive logistics industry? And they said, buy a car.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it will motivate us.
But which car are you going to buy? You can buy, instead of one, you can buy 3.
I know, it looks like I'm going to have 2.
Why not?
Yes. Yeah. A question in the middle there.
I suppose I don't need to introduce myself. I've already asked so many questions. But my question is around service parts. In Toyota, we've studied for many years the idea of trying to leverage the production part supply chain for service parts as well, with mixed success. Have any of you had success doing that in Mexico?
Rafael, I know in North America, service parts transportation, or USA I should say, service parts transportation is now under kind of MPNL. Is that the case in Mexico as well?
Not the whole administration of the service parts. We are, in the case of service parts, MP Logistics, in this, my position, is a supplier for service part department. I handle the logistics until certain points. I am responsible to receive parts in my consolidation center in San Luis Potosí, for instance, from Mexican suppliers, and ship them. But all the administration, scheduling, quantities, supplier selection is done by another entity different than logistics.
Chris, I think service parts kind of, or part of service parts comes under your responsibility.
Yeah, we're pretty well integrated. In the U.S. for sure, we have an integrated inbound network that incorporates service and production parts. In Mexico, we're evolving to that. We've had some pretty good initiatives in the last couple of years where we're making some headway there, where it makes sense. We do it where it makes sense. If we're going to pick up from a production parts supplier and we can combine the service parts, we also use the routes that deliver the parts to the dealerships. If the service parts supplier is in the return route, we'll use them to make the pickups. So we really kind of look at all the options and not just go with one of them. It's just really what makes the most sense for that given supplier.
Any more questions? One question from me, one of my most important questions is, and Chris has already answered this, so he can opt out of this one. But when I first came to Mexico, Chris recommended tacos al pastor. So what would be your recommendations to our global travelers who have come in, many of them in for the first time into Mexico, for the menu?
You will have the same. You have the same recommendation that Chris made to you. I am fan of the tacos al pastor as well.
Okay. Okay. And what would be the official General Motors recommended food for? I don't know.
I don't know about General Motors because I'm from the north of Mexico. I would recommend a good carne asada or tacos de arrachera.
Okay. Okay. So
Flank
remember
steak,
that.
tacos or barbecue.
Yeah. Okay.
But tacos al pastor should be here in Mexico City.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's the best
yeah.
place, since my point of view, to eat, to have tacos al pastor.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any follow-ups to that? Is there any other recommendations? And for dessert? Chris, you have to come in on this one as well. You didn't give me a dessert.
I'd say pastel de tres leches or flan.
Same for me.
Okay. So you have to be different now, Rafael.
Don Julio 70.
Yeah, Don Julio, and his dessert's better than mine. So.
So, I mean, I don't know if there's a final comment or a final question or before we close the session. Is that a hand at the back? Because there's a mirror behind you, so that's really confusing.
There you are. No, one person.
Is there two guys asking the question?
Yeah.
Thank you. Roberto Michel from Messi Line. Rather than a question, it is a kind of reflection. We've been hearing about a lot about lack of capacity on the ports, on the rail, on trucks, on the ocean routes as well. And I believe that one of the partial solutions, perhaps, it's here in this room. The cooperation between the different players that we are called. Sometimes we're not playing. But what I mean with this is that we should be kind of talking each other more frequently. We should try to expand our network that translates into better solutions for our customers. I think that not only the government is the one who has to create solutions for the ports, solutions for the infrastructure, but also us as a players. We have that responsibility. And as a Mexican, I'm very honored that this important event is being held here. And I would invite you, everyone, to think about this little reflection, and it's just an invitation to consider that point.
Okay. I agree.
That's a very good point. And unfortunately, I often finish conferences by saying, you know, you're going to go back to your offices, you know, maybe tomorrow, Friday, and think, well, it's Friday, I've got all the week's things to catch up on, because I've been at a conference for 2 days. And then on Monday, you're still trying to catch up on the stuff from Friday, because on Friday you were catching up last week's work. By Wednesday or Thursday, there's been another crisis. So too many of the things that we've discussed the last 2 days with great intentions will be forgotten about until this time next year at the next conference. So I will, you know, ask that, please, you know, if you've spent your time, you spent, you know, your money traveling or visiting, or what you've learned here, take it back with you, remember, and, you know, use it. And it'll be great. And I'm going to try and keep in contact with as many of you as I can to see what we can do with steps along the way. You know, say maybe in a month's time or 2 months' time, it'll be good to say, you know what, this stuck in my mind, but nothing's really developed. Wouldn't it be great to come back next year and say, this is what we learned, these are some of the challenges that we faced, this is what we did about it, and this is the result. The result can sometimes be, in the end, there wasn't anything we can do, but at least we tried. At least we tried. So kind of, you know, on that, you know, whether it's a negative or positive note, I'm not sure. You know, please, I've heard some great discussions, move them forward. This industry's got huge, huge opportunities for everybody in this room, for the whole country. So, you know, let's take advantage of what we've learned, push them forward. If there's things, work as an industry, work, you know, within your own company, push it up to the top and make sure that your bosses are aware of how important logistics and supply chain is. One of the things I was talking to the ambassador and other, you know, senior people here is the presidents of a car maker will probably spend most of their time talking to the government about tax breaks or sales opportunities or something like that. If they get, I don't know what kind of money is involved in these things, if they got a $10 million tax break, the president of whichever car maker would say, well, job well done, we've really used our government relations there. But I wonder how many millions they would save if they used their lobbying to the government to focus on supply chain and infrastructure issues. How much would be saved as, you know, by an individual company? On the other hand, the real challenges that have to be fixed are probably not going to be fixed by an individual company, even as big as the 3 companies that are represented on this thing. You know, it needs to be the industry working together. And you guys out there, with your LSPs, with your other car makers, whether your tier suppliers, the same message applies. It's got to be as a group. You know, there's huge opportunities. Don't let it get wasted, because we never pushed for what we know needs to be done. You made the point earlier, Raymundo, that you do get these points across. But somehow we've got to hammer them hard enough so that next year when the politician or whoever it is says, I didn't know about that problem, we make sure that we can really, you know, name names and say what we've done as an industry. You've got some great associations out here. You've got, you know, we've partnered with AIAG, who have also got offices out here. We've, you know, had great support from the US-Mexico Chamber of Commerce, who are all very willing to support you. You've got your own associations out here. So work together to kind of get this message across. But if we can carry on with the positivity, the energy, the great, you know, positivity of the industry, the desire to move things forward. It's not often I say this at a logistics conference, the brains and, you know, that we have in this room. If we can do that, then I think Mexican automotive industry will develop. Mexican's just a part of the global automotive industry will develop. And we'll send that such an important message that the automotive logistics and supply chain industry plays such an important part in doing that, and nowhere more than Mexico. So I think that's what I'd like to ask, that, you know, we continue what we've talked about. It's too easy to go back to your desk job and get inundated again. But I'd like to thank the panel once again for such an, you know, honest discussion and participating in this final for this final panel. Cristals, Rafael Lopez, and Raymundo Garza, thank you very much for participating.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a couple of sort of points. Firstly, the evaluation forms. Please make sure you complete the evaluation forms. We're going to do the prize draw in a minute or so. So please complete your evaluation forms. If you haven't completed them, please you know, raise your hand with the forms, and we'll collect them for you and put them into the draw. I'd like to, you know, thank everyone who participated. You know, we were really honored to have the Secretary of the Economy, the Ministry of Communication and Transport, the Infrastructure National Fund, the US Ambassador, the Governor of Guanajuato, Presidents of Ford, Mexico and Delphi, Mexico, and of course every speaker and attendee who participated. I'd like to thank our sponsors, our global sponsor, Wallenius Wilmson Logistics, our gold sponsors, APL Vasco, ProTrans, Ryder and XPO Logistics, and our silver sponsors, Air Charter Service, Geodis Wilson, Goodpack, Jack Cooper, KHS, Orbis, Seglo Logistics and UTI. And a special thank you to the US-Mexico Chamber of Commerce, and a thank you from all of us at Automotive Logistics and AIAG who partnered with us. I'll just select the evaluation form, and hopefully if you're there we'll announce it and you'll collect your prize from here. Just take, because they're walking out. And the winner is Pamela Roldan. Oh, fantastic. Actually, no, I don't want to give it to her. I want to give it to somebody else. She was laughing at me earlier. So thank you very much, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you all again in 2016. Thank you.